In my last video on this project, I told you I wanted to drive it in the snow. It's snowing. It's only a little bit right now. I'm gonna have to wait for this to build up before it's fun. In the meantime, why don't I give you an update on some of my projects. The totally normal Jeep for daily driving and getting groceries is working great for daily driving and getting groceries. And a little off-roading here and there. This truck has axle and brake issues. I could fix them, but I already bought an entire other truck for parts, and that should have good axles. I'm just waiting for that to arrive. It'll get an axle swap, then this one will be back on the road. This Jeep has been working fine. Even the block with 10 cracks in it I fixed with glue, no problems. The only issue I've had is with the new seats I bought. These are for a forklift and supposed to be able to handle being out in the weather. They don't. If I'm going to completely ignore that, that's fine as is. Then we go over to the race Jeep. Last time I was at the duct tape drags, I missed a shift and I had ignition problems. Ignore the cobwebs. I already installed the Hurst shifter from the bad transmission in this car. I even got a new shift boot to make it fancy. I also got a Black Friday special on an entirely new ignition system. Hopefully this one is good, because they put their name all over it. I've got just a little bit of work to do on this, so I should be able to make it to the duct tape drags this year. And I really want to make it this year, because last year I missed it, because I was doing something else. Speaking of things that happened in the past, we got to go into some old clips here before it was snowing, because I started doing a lot of things already. On the $2 Jeep, I've been fiddling with the engine and transmission placement. On the driver's side, that fitting is awfully close to this new brake system. And I like this. This works really well. Then we go over to the passenger side, and the alternator is hitting the battery box. And by eyeballing the engine, I think the whole thing is a little bit too far that way. So I think it needs to go that way. I'll probably end up removing the battery box. But if I remove the battery box and make clearance for the alternator and shove the engine over that way, that gets the oil pan closer to that pumpkin. But that's not that bad, because that transfer case outputs on the driver's side, which means it needs a pumpkin over here, like the Wrangler has. I was going to try to drive it with this axle in it, but I might have to swap to the Wrangler axle just to keep that oil pan safe. There's a similar problem with the transfer case. It was meant for the passenger side drop, and there's a lot of clearance on the floor on that side. It isn't there on this side where I need it. I've got the factory Wagoneer crossmember in place, and these are actually welded to the frame, so this is not going to drop down easily, and I'd rather have it in the stock location. Either I make a hole like that on that side, or I clock the transfer case down. But that might lead me to interference with the front drive shaft here. So this one's in the pondering stage. I want to make sure what I do works well, so I want to get this part right. Then everything else can start falling into place. I've done some improvements on this forklift, but there's one thing holding it up. I was missing a roller. I need to make one. But I learned when I was working on the garden tractor making an adapter, this lathe is not going to cut it. Literally.
It's hard to see by eye. That whole tool post is deflecting. And when you're machining something, a slight deflection is a big deal.
I can't get a decent surface, and that thing needs to have a bearing slip fit into it. So I need to fix that problem. My fix is buying this. This is a much heavier duty lathe that doesn't work. So I got to get this thing running. That's also going to be a future video. This is a trailer I built out of a dually front end. Notice it doesn't have dually wheels anymore, but the shop truck does have dually wheels now. This is a video that's going to be coming up pretty soon. On this half-track truck, I actually have another set of tracks, which are better than my old ones, that are ready to go on once I flip the rear end around. I've got the wear ring made to straighten out that wheel. I also never liked these front tires. They're far too street-oriented for my taste, but they were what I had. I found some front tires cheap on Marketplace, got a pair of them. Looks like they've never even been on the road. Right now the body's just resting on the frame. Once I have those tires installed, I actually make mounts that sit at the right height above the frame. They give me the right amount of clearance here. I am going to make some progress on this soon. The toe tug has been no problem at all. It works fine and just does the job. Haven't had to do anything to that. I did a whole pile of things wrong with this project. Sometimes I have learned from my mistake moments. The entire video on this is going to be learn from my mistakes video, because I don't think I did anything right. But that'll be coming up in a little bit. I got to finish making mistakes on that one. On the Rust Bucket dually Jeep, I really got to fix that frame issue. It is completely rusted through, and I have a spare frame. I'm going to start the frame repair by adding this PTO drive. You guessed it, future video.
On the Minneapolis Moline powered forklift, the tires were pretty marginal when I got it.
I had to replace this one with a used one, of course.
Surprisingly, this one is still holding air.
More falls off every time I drive it, and they really need to get done pretty soon.
The snow seems to be melting faster than it's coming down.
We have just a little bit of snow here, but we can still have snow fun. We have enough snow for a snowball. Got to try this out. We got to try that again. I think I can scrape up a little more. That'll do. A little more distance, but it does better with presence. We might have to make a dedicated snowball launcher at some point here. I've got a few little engine projects going on, some of them very little. This is a 2.8 liter turbo diesel out of an 06 Jeep Liberty. The thing I like about these engines is that bolt pattern. This is an NV 3500 I picked up as a spare for the race Jeep. I got to yank that torque converter out of there to know for sure, but this is looking plausible. It's a 4-cylinder. Normally they're electrically injected. This one's missing most of the electric stuff. My plan is to install a mechanical injection pump. I'm thinking one from a 4BT might work because same number of cylinders, same direct injection. How hard can it be? Problem is I haven't found any cheap 4BT stuff yet. Keeping looking. I also picked up an air-cooled 10-horse diesel. It's off a generator with a tapered shaft. I don't know what I'm going to use it for yet, but the price was right. Here's another one where the price was right. This is an atomic 4-cylinder out of a sailboat. It's a small flathead 4-cylinder with a gearbox and an in-out clutch. Don't know what I'm going to do with it yet, but it's really cool. A while back, I built an electric 3-wheel bicycle. So my dad did something that would get him a little bit farther and faster than a hover-around would. I made a few upgrades to that. I'd like to show them to you. I'd like to, but I can't. Someone grabbed it and carried it over that fence and took it away. It's gone. They didn't even realize it was electric because I had a new set of batteries in there and they pulled them out in order to make it lighter to get over the fence and left them here. So I got a 4-wheel pedal car and another electric motor. I think this one will be more stable and better than that 3-wheeler. I've got a similar problem with this motorhome. A number of years ago, my daughter and I put in all brand new carpet and got the interior ready to go. Someone broke into it and stole the carpet and her mattress. That took the fun out of the project. I tried to get motivated again. I swapped in a new used front axle, got the steering working. Huh, well, that's a new one. I didn't expect that to happen. But it still bugs me when I walk in the door. So this one is probably going to sit for a little while longer. We got a little more snow. It's been snowing and melting off and on. I don't think it's going to get deeper than this. So let's give it a shot. It turns really easy in the snow.
It was all going well, and I started picking up speed. Then it went less well.
Don't tell anyone. I accidentally drove over the mistletoe. Let's see if this still works. Let's see if I ruined Blitzen. Oh, still works. I'm safe. My family's getting a little attached to the deer. And to keep it working, I probably should not do that again. Luckily I planned for this. One ratchet strap is all it takes. Now it's all ready to go with no danger to the deer. So we're gonna let a little more snow fall, then I'll try this again. Right now I got a snowball fight to attend. I got called out.
I challenge you to a snowball fight.
The challenge is on. I gotta go do this. On the CCKW, I'm working on getting a title for that. The way the title process works around here, I've got to get a title bond for it for twice the value of the vehicle, and the tax is based on the value of the vehicle. So right now I don't want this to increase value until I get the title for it. So I'm not fixing this one intentionally until I have a title. Then I'll get this thing going. This car is in the background in a lot of videos.
I got a great deal on this a few years ago, but it did need a bit of work.
I'm trying to piece together the body in this car. I actually made a bit of progress and then hit a roadblock. I went to attach everything and realized nothing on the front end lines up. This frame rail is actually forward and that one is backwards. So I got to straighten the frame somehow. I will get back to this. When I bought it, I had a goal of when it was 100 years old, I was going to take it on a road trip. And this is the 1930s, so that means 2030. Now it's only 5 years away, so I'm going to have to get this thing going pretty soon. Because I want it reliable before I take it on a trip. A lot of people have asked me to do a video on that rotor. I started one years ago, but I never finished it. A lot of you have noticed this windmill on the roof here and have asked some more details about it. Fortunately, we had a real big wind yesterday and it broke. Now I have a good opportunity to show it to you close up. Now this is a Savonius style rotor where you have two curved surfaces, so no matter which way the wind goes, it catches one of them. Now one critical thing for efficiency is you're supposed to let them overlap a little bit. So as the wind goes in one side, it actually curves around and gives extra wind to the other side. So that little bit of overlap really increases the efficiency on these. Now this one's made from a 55-gallon drum, just split in half. I think I did like 2.5-inch overlap or something like that there. We've got a bearing on the top, another bearing on the bottom, and then I just put a quick wood framework up. I just sort of threw this together about 10 years ago, and it's been running fine for over a decade. One other thing I had to do was add these tie rods, because as this spun, there's actually enough force, the side of the barrel would expand and start hitting my framework. You can see there's been a few rub marks there. A lot of wood is dried and the screws are starting to come loose. Some of these screws have just sheared off completely. So I got a pocket full of wood screws and I'm going to piece this back together. We'll see how much longer it lasts. There is an old turbine vent in the shed already, which I took off, and that's where I ran the shaft through from this windmill. I had attached a beam there with the lower bearing, and it looks like this came loose too. So let's get that fixed. Yep, snapped off. Got some screws meant for concrete. They should be a little sturdier. Now it's time to release the strap and see what happens. Looks like we're good. It's not hitting anything, not banging, and seems happily spinning. Now here's the underside of the rotor. Just got a V-belt pulley. And I was running an air pump for a while, but I couldn't really get enough RPM to do anything useful. Here's the old belt. I'm going to hook this back up and let's see what happens. Let's see if we can hook it up while it spins. Oh, almost. Nice. Oh. Doesn't like that. All right, almost there. Almost there. There we go. All right. I'm going to try to steal this cobweb, use it to show airflow. Luckily, cobwebs are usually sticky for a while, so you can use them for all sorts of things. So you can see how it dances around the wind. There's a good breeze coming out of that port, but not enough to do anything particularly useful. Let's see what we got for RPM. We're running right around 500. I went digging into my parts shed, and I found an old alternator that I think actually works. Now this is totally wrong for application. We have a V-belt drive. This is a serpentine belt. These alternators use the computer control to control the voltage, so there is no regulator at all. And they're meant for a fairly high RPM, much more than we have. So basically this is wrong in pretty much every respect. So we're going to go ahead and use it. We got spare pulleys up here, and that's obviously some kind of alternator generator, but I don't really want the fan. That looks about right. Wonder what that's from. Oh well. Looks like it fits. At least it's close enough. Alright, the nut barely catches a thread on it, so that's going to be an issue. Noticing this nut has a bit of counterbore inside it, so what we're going to do is just flip it upside down to get more thread engagement, like that. Now, we just have to figure out a way to tighten this down. There we go. Solve the serpentine drive, now we got a nice V-belt. Got an old Dodge regulator here. Let's see, let's just bolt this on here somewhere. Now we just wire it up and see what happens. Found some nice thick speaker wire to hook this up with. So that's my negative and my positive connection. Now I need to hook up that voltage regulator. Found some household wire that has a ring terminal already crimped on. So this will be fine for this. It's not like we've got to worry about vibration in an engine compartment here. If this thing starts vibrating as much as an engine does, I've got bigger issues and the roof is about to fall off. So we're not worried about that. We just peeled back the connector a little bit. There, now it fits in there a lot more secure. Next one. All right, got those done. Now when I did the cheap 360 build, I showed you how to wire in these standalone controllers into a computerized alternator. But basically, you hook the field wires up any way you want, but you hook an ignition source to the center wire at the bottom of the little triangle. This wire here should be hooked to a powered ignition source. I don't have one because I'm going to turn this into a battery charger. So I'm just going to hook it straight to the positive terminal. And that way, whenever a battery's hooked to this, that field will be live. Now, if you hook that up on a regular vehicle, your battery would go dead right away. But I'm only planning on hooking this up when I want to charge the battery and the wind is going. That might work. We'll find out. I've got my speaker wire hooked to some official battery charger type connections. I've got a battery here hooked to a voltmeter. So we're going to hook this thing up. Now the first thing we should see is the field should be energized. So we should see a voltage drop. Around 0.1 volts, somewhere around there. Now, when we spin this up, we should see a voltage increase. We're over 13 volts, so we definitely are getting a good charge out of this. It keeps climbing. All right, and then it drops back down as soon as we stop spinning it. So spinning that definitely charges that battery. The question is, will wind power be enough to do that? Got a little bit of a breeze going today. Looks like we might get some power out of this thing. Got the big pulley chugging along. The belt hasn't fallen off yet, even though it's completely misaligned. Let's see if we can get an RPM reading in this thing. All right, looks like we're getting a little over 500, which is slow for an alternator, but it's moving. Now let's see if we can charge a battery. This battery's sitting at 12.59 volts. Still got the alternator spinning. See what happens when we hook up the windmill. The voltage is dropping there. That's not necessarily a good sign. Oh, but it's turning real slow now. It's not often I want it to be more windy, but I want it to be more windy. Hey, it's picking up. Let's go see what we got for voltage. 12.29. I'm wondering if the draw of the alternator is actually slowing this thing down. Okay, we got 12.39. Now if you heard that squeaking, we're definitely dragging down the power. And voltage is dropping. Looks like I just don't have the power with this windmill to do it. Now the other problem is this field coil. That field coil takes energy to create the magnetic field to actually generate electricity. If that stops moving, that field is still drawing juice. So it'll actually drain my battery when I don't have wind. I need to use a permanent magnet type motor. That way if it goes stationary, it doesn't draw power from the battery I'm trying to charge. In theory, this could work if I had a bigger windmill or a smaller generator. There's a lot of small generators available that I could buy.
Small permanent magnet generators are readily available. I also found there were 3-phase generators that used a rectifier to straighten out the current. There also are hand crank generators, which I could couple directly to the rotor.
But so far I haven't run across a free one, and I can't justify buying anything for it, so I already have electricity here. But now I have another idea that doesn't involve electricity. I've got these old pool solar heaters. They're just a row of tubes that run water through them, and the black heats it up. If I hook up that windmill to a pump, I could constantly circulate water through these and have constant heating. So I might pursue that. That is, unless one of you guys has a better idea what to do with that windmill. Please leave me a comment if you think of something.
We're losing snow, not gaining it.
Just a few small patches remain, but nothing I can drive on.
That's not true. I forgot about a Christmas present I got. I can drive this. I'm giving up on more snow happening here, so it's time to reconvert this machine.
Back to normal. So now I can trailer this again. I'm going to save all that stuff and it'll bolt right back on for next year. You may notice I have a lot more space here. That's because I've been hauling a lot of vehicles and parts up to the Lowbuck mine.
I'll get to doing more work on these eventually, but right now they're safe at the mine.
Let me give you an update about that.
I did start to do some work on the slightly radioactive Dodge.
Good tread.
I'll get it going eventually.
When I did my first video up at the mine, I told you I bought the land, but none of the stuff on it. Now this is a big engine. It's a Cushman something. Okay, that's just creepy. Oh, electric pallet jack. Looks kind of cool. 50 horsepower. Not sure what this used to do. Well, now that's useful. I wonder if you can build a storage shed out of desks. The purchase agreement said the previous owner had 1 year to remove all this stuff. I figured a year would be enough time to do it. 1 year happened yesterday. See those few pieces of pipe over there? That pile used to be bigger. He took most of the pile of pipe. That's it. Nothing else moved. So now everything remaining is in the purchase agreement. All this stuff is mine, for better or worse.
I showed you most of the stuff before, but there were a number of semi-trailers that were locked, and I've never seen what's inside them.
There's a padlock here, a big piece of angle going all the way through with a padlock on it, and a padlock there. I have keys to all these locks now, so let's see what I got myself into. Oil pump, file cabinet laying on its side, Paleozoic formations of the Mosquito Range, Colorado, products for exploration drilling. There's shelves back there, filing cabinets that have fallen apart. Basically a lot of trash. The one thing I do like is I see an electrical box and overhead lights. So if I get this connected to power, I actually can make this something useful after a lot of cleaning. Looks like a lot of shelving, so I will have lots of storage once I get through this mass of stuff. I see no reason to lock that back up. Now I got a one painted white. That's good. There's something I like about this. Look how thick those doors are. And the walls are thick too. Even the floor is raised above the floor. The floor isn't actually exposed to outside air. There's an air gap. I think this used to be a reefer, and it's actually insulated. That could be handy. This might make a good upgrade to the cabin. This one had electricity once too. It's kind of like Christmas lights. They're a string along. You can plug one into the next. I bet these are the lights they use inside mines. When they dig a tunnel, they just put these up and string them into the ceiling, and then you got light. Those are going to come in handy. Feels like I'm mining as is. Ooh. Yeah, this is up to date. Back when floppy disks were actually floppy. The funny part is, I just realized as I said that a lot of people watching this don't even know what floppy disks are. Never mind that they used to be floppy, not the little rigid 3.5s. What are they, 5 1/4 floppies? Were they actually bent? This is not modern stuff. Oh. K2 skis. I think those are good ones. Apparently owned by Steve Watson. 2-inch diameter tubing. And that is a big roll. And there's more down there. Those ducts in the roof, I think those are cold air ducts. Looks like those went to a refrigeration unit and the air came along them and got dropped off at different spots. So it got evenly distributed throughout the trailer. Beach chair? Nice. Don't have a beach, but you know, we have a chair. Looks like mostly office-y type stuff and lots of tubing. I could run tubing wherever I want. Here's more of those lights. Huh. Well Surveying Corporation. Westfall 1 in the Wildcat in Lincoln, Oklahoma. Huh. Oklahoma? Doesn't really matter to me. Radio Shack TRS-80 Model 2. When I was a kid, the first computer I played with was the TRS-80 Model 3. This is the earlier version. I'm going to have to see if that'll fire up. Oh, there's the keyboard. 25 meg disk system. That doesn't sound like much now, but back in the 80s, that was a lot. Wonder if it still has data on it. Not sure what this is, but you can see it has a fan blade and little pulley drives reducing the ratio. And it says certified rating water output. It's on wheels. All sorts of maps of things. That's a big pile of maps as a scroll. It's going to be interesting to go through this pile of stuff. On to the next one. I can actually walk into this one a little bit. Now right off the bat, I noticed a big danger tag. Laser radiation, avoid eye and skin exposure. So that's always a good sign. More beach chairs. Badminton racket. I would say horseshoes, but those are a lot bigger than I'd ever seen. Oh, what is this? Obviously some kind of camera. Super 8. We got pumps, pump fittings, Canon high-speed battery charger, rock salt, something broken. What is this? Ansco Vision 88 Dual-O-Matic. Oh, I think this is a projector of some sort. Maybe? Yeah, that's a projector. I bet you did reel-to-reel films on this thing and ran them through somehow and projected it out there. What do we have here? Keystone. Movie editor. Okay. Filters. Some strange thing under a tarp. What is this? It's covered in mouse poop, but it looks like it used to be important. Glass tubes of some sort. This? I recognize this. That's a VCR. VHS even. It's better than beta. Because I actually have VHS tapes. I don't have any beta ones. And yes, I do still have VHS tapes. And a player even. So I guess I don't need that. But I'm going to try it out. A dryer. Looks like there's some kids stuff here. Danger, wear goggles. Caution, wear eye protection. Shut off machine when not in use. That's got to be fun. Whatever it is. Lots of water filters. That, I don't know what that is. There's an old typewriter. Oh, and a modern typewriter. One of the electric ones. VHF. That's probably some kind of TV under there. More kids' toys. That looks fancy. Well, used to be. More kids' stuff and non-kids' stuff. What do we have up there? 100 pounds of calcium hypochloride. I bet it's empty because it's been opened. More kids' stuff. There is a complete closet full of clothes. Those are some nice collars. Another closet. But then this, whatever it is. It's got electrical connections. Let's look in here. Those look like lenses. I have no idea what that is. Pedestal assembly transmitter. Okay, some kind of transmitter. And that looks like another one. And I can't fit through here. But it looks like more kid stuff. There's a crib back there. Toys, furniture. Must have been some kind of promotional thing. Archer video enhancer. A lot of video stuff. And a telephone. I don't know. Oh, Intertel. Probably an intercom local system. Soil samples. A panda flower pot, maybe? Valma Incorporated. New Mexico. Well, I guess that's our official embossing seal. I almost missed this bit of 70s right here. There's an odd assortment of things in here. On to the next one. None of the keys worked on that trailer. Luckily, I brought a universal key. Apparently, this is a really good lock, because all I managed to do was polish it a little bit. I'll bring up an angle grinder with a cutoff wheel. That'll take care of it. But that'll be a mystery for next time. Now this one has a side door with 2 padlocks on it, and another one in the back. I can't actually reach that lock. I'm going to try the back one. Well, that's actually pretty empty. I like that. Lots of storage bins. Oh, there's bolts in there. That's a lot of bolts. A lot more bolts. Big bolts. Lots of lock washers. More big bolts. That's a good chunk of chain. That's 1/2 inch diameter. That's hefty. Work light, repair parts, fuel pumps, miscellaneous. Really big, oh, Miller. Really big Miller something. That is a huge welder. This thing is a tall box. And it's actually on wheels. It's its own little roll-around cart. I don't know how heavy that thing is. It is 235 to max. 300 amp. And a 60% duty cycle. Oh, straight and reverse polarity. Remote amperage control. That is one serious welder. We got toolboxes. Do we have tools? No. We got files. A round file. I was looking for a round file the other day. These are coming back home with me. Mouse boot. Oil filter wrench, maybe? Mouse nest. Pop rivets, little ones. Yeah, some useful stuff in there. Let's see, another toolbox. Scissors. Well, ew, that's a little gross. I don't know what that is. If any of you happen to know what this means, could you let me know in a comment? Welding shades, I understand. A dust collector, that could be handy. What else we got in here? Rhine air? Don't know. I'd say it's a fan, but it's got a lot of fittings on it. That's a nice cabinet. I haven't seen one of these batteries in a long time. Might even be a new one with a cap on the terminal still. Pumps, grinding wheels, grease guns. First aid stuff. Telephones. This is actually mounted to the floor. That's an eye wash station. Mounted to the floor. There's a lot of telephones. Telephone, 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 telephone. Telephone, telephone. Huh. That is a speaker. That's a siren. That spins inside there, creates the air to make the siren sound. I bet that thing's loud. There's a good jack. Anti-shock trousers. Not in there. It's got amperage and charging. 1 or 2 amps. Whatever this is charged wasn't very big. It's a good bit of angle iron. Thinking this one used to be used as a workshop.
One big benefit of having everything at the Lowbuck mine belonging to me now is I can clean up the way I want, with power tools. And a quick update on the Nissan diesel swapped Oliver. It's running great.
There's more stuff up there that I don't want to scoop up, but I still want to use power tools. So I went to an auction and bought one of these. I didn't pay much for it, and it doesn't fit. So I'm going to have to adapt that to this excavator. Then I can actually pick stuff up. I got a rake too. Figured it might come in handy.
I mentioned that stuff was stored securely there. We actually set up a camera to test this. There were a lot of uninvited guests, with a little more variety than I expected. But they seemed mostly harmless. There were even whole families that came through. Some small ones. Some unexpectedly large ones. Some seemed very comfortable there, and some didn't. There was an awful lot of activity there. But none of the two-legged variety. At least none that we didn't already know.
I've taken a lot of project vehicles up to the mine to store them there. One that's come back is this bus. I brought it there for the summer so we had somewhere to stay, but I still have some work I want to do to it. So in the fall, we took a nice road trip back. Along the way, I had a problem with the hoses leaking coolant.
That's antifreeze leaking on the ground from this hose.
Luckily, we're right near a Walmart, so I got a couple gallons of water and some more hose clamps. It actually looks like there's a little bit of a split in the hose, which is normally very bad. I'm trying to feel the metal inside, and it looks like the metal tube goes all the way to about there, past the split. So I'm going to hose clamp it right here. This is definitely something that should be replaced, but I'm only 3 hours from home. We'll see how that works. I've had problems with these hoses before. Oh, yeah. Oh, we got coolant coming out. So I think it's time to drain the entire cooling system and actually replace them. And I got a few other things I want to do to this too. We made a list along the way. On my car trailer, the electric brakes started acting up. Now that was using this very basic type brake controller that's in the shop truck. My wife's car has a brake controller, so I tried hooking it to that one. It's a little one button style with a little light. But when I hook the trailer to it, the brake controller is signaling me some kind of error and the brakes don't work. That light pattern isn't in the manual, so I don't know what that means. It's blinking the third brake light as some kind of warning for something. When I unplug the trailer, everything's fine. My Suburban has one of those fancy controllers that tells you things in words. So let's hook it to that. Doing braking things. Everything looks totally fine. And now it's not doing braking things. At least I know what the problem is now. There's a short circuit somewhere. I looked through it, I couldn't find a short anywhere, but the wires for the brakes go through the axle tubes. Also, I came up with some ideas of what I want to do while I'm taking that apart. So that's going to be another video. I also have new project vehicles, V8 turbo diesel with locking hubs. And yes, I did say turbo. The price is right. It's even less than the $2 Jeep. I barely even got started on these. So I've got a lot more videos coming up and a lot of work in front of me. Luckily, it's fun. Hope you guys are having fun too. We'll see you next time. One thing I forgot to mention. Notice there's some new t-shirts. We're actually going to take a crack at doing t-shirts again. My wife retires in a year and a half. She's going to try to handle that end of it properly then. We figure it'll be a good experience for the kids to learn about business. In the meantime, we'll try to muddle our way through it. It's not going to be fast, but we should be able to get it done. I'm going to leave an email address in the description. Go ahead and email us there, and we'll figure out what to do.